So I'm going to head to the corner and holler, "Cut me, Mick! Cut me!" Got to get it where I can see. You remember in Rocky?
I remember it very well.
When he beat them eyes shut?
I remember it very well.
Turn it up even, like this.
I got you.
And turn it to you. There you go. People want to hear what you have to say.
No, not really.
They're not interested in me.
Not
they
really.
want to hear what four member.
No,
yeah, I'm sure they want to look at me.
God, dude, I'm sorry, man.
I have.
I've
told Addison when she watched the video. I have it on video when I fell because I got security cameras in here, so I could go back and rerun it. And I cut the snippet, and I've got it on my computer. And I told her that I need to post it on Facebook and say, this is what you don't do when you get old, because it has adverse effects. Now, if I could just cough and sneeze and just minimal things like that, because
just the little things.
Right now the whole body just
well, you look
aches.
fantastic.
I feel like, well, I'm not going to say what I feel like, but anyway, glad to have you here this morning. Thanks for joining us. I am still planning on making the trip next week. We'll be out of town all week next week. Get a little golfing in. If I miss that, I'm really not going to be a happy camper, because that only comes around once a year, so that's going to be really, really bad.
It's like Christmas, man.
It's as big as Christmas.
Christmas in March.
It's as big as Christmas. Now, one of the downsides that I have seen, and of course, our official group meteorologist Robbie Abernathy has already posted, we're going to need rain gear.
Yeah.
Okay. So
was looking at it, and I think there's a couple of days that he and I were kind of messing around, talking about stuff.
Let's just see what we got.
All right.
Not that anybody else cares, but we're going to pass it on to you.
Well, no, I mean, it's important. It's the beach.
Okay. Monday is 68, mostly cloudy.
Yep.
Tuesday is 69, 30% rain showers, but I'm thinking that's later in the day. Wednesday is an off day, travel day. That's a 50-60% day.
Yep.
And then Thursday is 50, Friday is 50, Saturday is 50, with highs in the mid-upper 60s.
Yeah.
So that's not too bad. And that's just, that's a 50-50 chance. And do you know how that really works?
You told me. I never knew that.
It's not that there's a 50% chance you'll get rain. It's 50% of your area will see some rain. And that's why
amazing.
I never knew that, and somebody explained that to me, because I always thought it meant that there was a 50% chance everybody in the area was going to get rain. But it's not. It's a 50% chance that 50% of your area gets the rain, which is a little bit different. So we'll find out. I know this, at least 60-degree weather at the beach is not completely cold, but it is a little bit worse than being on up in the 70s. I've always thought 50s at the beach with a little wind was kind of cool.
It's awful.
Not that it wasn't. It's not like it's here.
Yeah, it's
different.
Yeah,
it's different. In case anybody didn't know, I took a tumble Monday. So if you see that, I saw Mike McCree last night at the club, and he was like, "Yeah, so you fell?" I'm like, "Yeah." And
pancake, dude.
Yeah, it's ugly. I've got the video. I'm just saying, but you don't want to see it.
Yeah, you won't do that.
You don't want to see it. Morning, Richie. No, we're not going to need a boat. I don't think we're going to need a boat.
I hope we're not going to.
I'm going to have to pass if we're going to do a boat. But, it gets me away from here and aggravation and work and that kind of thing. So
we need to do like a sports talk guys golf outing.
I've thought about that. I thought about it as a fundraiser.
And make it a charity event. We and let everybody pick, have some ideas and maybe list their top 3 things on a local scale. Okay, and kick out some of the ones that, they're, I'm saying, like on a more, local level. But we probably ought to.
We'll look into that.
We'll get down there.
We have plenty of time to talk about
things.
Yeah,
absolutely. At George's.
I don't even come close. Y'all embarrass me because I can't keep up.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean, you're talking about crab leg shells
Yeah.
Not just one pile. I'm talking about in front of everybody.
Oysters.
It's ugly. It's ugly. Not as ugly as my fall, but it's ugly. Yeah, I did want to mention that. Ole Anderson passed away.
Oh, no.
And I have seen two different ages. And I've read a couple stories. One said 81, one said 82.
He was fantastic.
He was old school. Ole and Gene Anderson.
And Arn, right?
That's when Arn came along, when Gene kind of got out.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Ole and Gene were Kiefe brothers.
God.
Arn was a nephew or a cousin.
Gotcha. I just remember Ric Flair going, Arn Anderson.
Yeah, well, here's the deal.
Anderson.
Ole was the founding member of the Four Horsemen. It was Arndt, Ole, Flair, and Tully Blanchard were the original Four Horsemen, if I'm not mistaken.
Blanchard kind of got out.
You know, they went in and out.
Lex Luger.
He's been in there. Barry Windham's been in there.
Yeah.
Chris Benoit was in there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this went through multiple.
Guy's so awesome. Dude.
Yeah, but
that's so fun.
that's when it was real, you know? I mean, it was real to us.
My next door neighbor, he used to tell me when we were living in Valdez, he said, I'd see him out there. I was like 11, 12 years old. He said, Ric Flair's the best wrestler in the world. There's nobody better than Ric Flair. I mean, just loved it. Just loved it.
Richard said he was 81. He hadn't made it to 82. His birthday is September 22nd. Thanks, Rich. I had seen it both ways just in some of the stories that I had read. But Ole was, I guess you'd say, a bitter man. He didn't like the way wrestling was changing and stuff.
Yeah.
And Ole, like a lot of these guys, were bookers. They were the ones that did the storylines back in the day.
Right,
Dusty Rhodes was a booker. Kevin Sullivan was a booker. I mean, just a lot of these guys that you didn't realize. I always thought that the storylines were put together by somebody separate in the back room. I think WWE's kind of like that.
Yeah, they have writers.
Yeah. But back in those days, they would just kind of write storylines about, this is how we want the belt to go, and here's how many matches we want to go, and that kind of thing. And it's really good. I mean, I really enjoyed wrestling back in the day. Chad, good morning. Glad to have you with us. But, yeah, Ole passed away. And then when I see something like that, then I start down the rabbit holes.
Yep.
Okay? Because then that'll lead me to wrestlers that died prematurely and on and on and on. And one of my favorite shows that I watch, and I finally found it again, it's on Hulu, if I'm not mistaken, Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
Those are great, great documentaries. And I thought those were good. Now, my understanding is they're doing a new documentary, I guess a longer one, of Ric Flair. They're going to do another one with him.
They need to.
And then he just celebrated his 75th birthday.
That's incredible.
This week, if I'm not mistaken. And he's died twice. I mean, some of the things he's had.
That's just incredible.
You know, the plane crash.
Oh,
he lived through the plane crash. So, yeah, Ric Flair has got a story. The other thing that I heard, in case you're a music-type person, my understanding is that it won't be out till 2026, but there's going to be, they call it biopics, you know, biography pictures. Mm-hmm. There will be an individual documentary on each member of the Beatles telling their story.
Wow.
And I saw on I do birthdays when I do the Mooresville morning show, and Yoko Ono, John Lennon's, just turned 91 or 92.
Whoa.
She was considerably older than he was.
I didn't realize
and I didn't know
much.
she's still alive. Richie said, since we're on wrestling, we have been talking that it's down to East Lincoln when they are in town when we come up there. I think the next time they're at East Lincoln is on March 16th. Are you talking about the local wrestling? Now, the guy, he's not at East Lincoln. He is actually at Cross Country Campground, the guy that does Wrestling Evolution.
Yeah.
Now, he did get a deal. He's going to do one at Bandy's High School.
That's
they
awesome.
use as a fundraiser kind of thing.
Awesome.
And that's how we used to make a lot of money when we were at the high school. All right, let me get away because I've digressed here. Let me get back to some of the top stories for today.
If Ohio State doesn't win the national championship with all the people that are going there, I'm telling you, man, this is crazy. It's like let's just throw everybody in a hat and let's just start picking them out.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy. This whole thing is just. And I was reading this thing too about now they're going to go to 14 teams. And,
let's pull that up.
Let's do 3 for the SEC and Big Ten. I don't want 3 Big Ten teams in if they're not deserving. Mm-hmm. This whole thing is about what's got to be fair, and it's got. Listen, the best teams. Bottom line. And the problem is when they put TCU in a couple of years ago.
Let me give you this.
I mean, you can't.
And here's what it's all based on. When they said they couldn't expand the playoffs, they were crazy because, listen to this. If you're not sure, they're thinking about a 14-team playoff that starts in 26, okay? The television side of the deal has already been agreed to in principle. Starting in 2026, ESPN is poised to spend an average of $1.3 billion on the playoffs for 6 years. Billion. That's $200 million per season, basically. So where that leaves is the college football playoff 2 leadership groups. There's the board of managers, presidents, and chancellors, and the management committee, which is commissioners and Notre Dame leadership, come together on a format. Now, here's what the format looks like right now. It says the expected boost in automatic qualification spots so soon after the start of the 5 automatic qualifiers in the 12 team. Now that I did like, okay? I have no problem with giving each champion of those 5 power conferences a spot. Now, that's not to say that you might not have a champion as a number 12 seed and there's other teams inside other conferences that didn't win their championship that should be above them. I'm okay with that. And then here's what you were bringing up. But the discussions that came out of Dallas is one that would include 3 qualifiers from the Big Ten and the SEC, 2 for the Big 12 and ACC, and 1 for the Group of 5. That would leave 3 at-large spots in the 14-team model. Now, I don't like that. The 14-team model also has got Notre Dame in there. What do you do with Notre Dame?
Look, either get in the league or just I'm so sick
or make
of this.
Everybody an independent and just play.
Yeah, I mean, just get in the league, or suffer the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. It's your choice. But what's happening is we're so worried every year about, well, what do we do with them?
Yeah.
Does anybody really care anymore? The answer's no.
Nope.
Okay, so get in, be a part of, or get out. Now, the same people that are putting all this together are the same people that couldn't structure appropriately all this NIL stuff that's going on, and everybody's running back and forth and transferring back and forth. This is not about opportunity. It's about taking it away.
I'm going to give you
That's what it's about.
The way the AP ended up, okay, I'm going to give you the top 14 teams out of the AP, okay, from last year. Last year, top 14 teams. Michigan, Washington, Texas, Georgia, Bama, Florida State, Oregon, Missouri, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Arizona, LSU, Penn State, and Notre Dame, okay? That was the final top 14. If you look at that 14, do you feel like you have the best 14 teams in the nation if that was your tournament today? And I can give you some of the ones that come after that. You got Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Tennessee, Kansas State, Louisville, Clemson, NC State. I don't see anybody that they left out.
I don't know. I mean,
and then the other point is, I don't think all 14 of those teams can actually win a national championship.
No, that's the problem. But this is the thing about it. In bracket play, it's always that way, right? And there's always a surprise every 10, 12 years. Can we definitively say, all right, that Oklahoma or that Penn State and I can actually see the board today. Wow. Penn State and Notre Dame are better than Oklahoma? No, we can't. Now, we might have an opinion, but
let's
look at it and say those two are better than that.
Let's look at if we had automatic qualifiers. You would have Michigan, from the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
Washington from the Big Ten.
Well, now.
Yeah,
Not last year, but now.
Oregon from the Big Ten. You would have Ohio State from the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And Penn State. So that'd be 5.
I just, on this year. Last year's no, but this year, yeah.
And then SEC, you've got Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Missouri, Ole Miss, and LSU. You got 6.
See, this is the problem with all this and where it's led to. The committee ranked everything based on what happened at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, we had to put Texas in because they beat Alabama. Do you realize how bad Alabama was at the beginning of the year? How dysfunctional? Saban retired because he put every ounce of energy in his body into that program, to get them that they were a top 4. It may be one of the most remarkable coaching performances that we will ever see and probably don't even appreciate yet.
Yep. No.
I mean, they almost lost in Florida to whoever it was by 1 point in it doesn't matter if it's a downpour or not. If athleticism if athleticism really matters, why do the conditions matter? So it doesn't. Okay. But how do you this whole thing? Well, we had to leave Florida State out. Well, you should have. Okay? They weren't the same. It's about getting the best 4 teams in, not the 4 that deserve. Now we're going back to, well, they deserve this because they're in a big league, so we're going to give them this many automatically. That is crazy. You're earning nothing and entitled to everything. This is crazy.
Let me give you.
You got to line them up 1 through whatever and go through it. And you can't say, well, we deserve it. We did all we could do. You're not the best. You're not the best.
I agree.
Okay, and this is why football is different, because the playoff system in football is not near as effective as it is in basketball and baseball because you can't play as much. You can turn around and play the next day in both those sports. You can't do that in football.
When you look at
that's why it's not as effective.
The old way when you had computer rankings, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
The old way, I think, took more into consideration on what you've done through the season based on who you played, how you played them, and because the computer rankings would take into effect, and sometimes you argue about this, is it better to have a good loss or a big win that's not a good win? You can have a win that you beat somebody that's 80 spots below you on the schedule.
That's a great point. Everything is about quality. Okay? The outcome, all right, is number 2 to quality. And people say, no, it's not. You got to win first, and you got to no, hold on a minute. All right? Again, let's go to the pretend scale. Okay? So if you are, it doesn't matter if you're high school, college, whatever, and you say, our goal is to just do this. Now, the highest goal is up there, okay? All right? But our goal is to do this, and then whatever happens, happens. All right? That's setting the bar where?
Low.
Okay. And make it very achievable so you feel good about what you've done. All right? Instead of saying, guys, ladies, that's as high as we can go. And we're going to shoot for that. Anything that falls below is what it is. But that's our goal. So imagine hitting that's great. But if you fall 1 game short, is that success or is that achievement? Well, you got to make sure when you're looking at these things that you look at the best and then you go down. You don't look at, well, this happened here, and people get hurt during the season. Teams develop, teams fall apart. All this stuff about, well, we beat them and they beat us. If you're looking to get the best 4, there's not been 1 year that you couldn't do that if you were being perfectly honest and not a fan.
That's why you have to take.
That's the problem with having too many people too close to things.
You have to take the personal. You have to take the human interaction out of it. For me, 100%. I think it has to all be stats.
100%.
And I'll ask you another question to tie it back, and then I'll take a break, get some comments. In high school, you look at teams like Lincoln, Shelby, some of these other teams that don't do well at the beginning of the season, but they start to peak because they work the bugs out when they get to the end. And they can make those deep runs because
they play better teams.
They're playing better competition.
Much better.
They're playing better competition.
Yeah.
But as the time goes on, it's all about peaking and reaching your maximum when you get to the end of the season to go in those playoffs.
Well, I think Shelby and Lincoln would understand, Lenny, that and many other schools.
Yes,
do too.
that's just two that come to mind.
Yeah, because a lot of schools are mandated to play their county schools,
right.
by the local by the LEA or what, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing that. What I'm saying is, when you can get out of that bubble and you can go, if you're a 2A or borderline 1A, 2A, and you can go play a 4A and a 3A and really go in there and maybe get your eyes beat shut, but you still go in there and compete.
Yep.
The idea is that you're prepping for that playoff run and for that championship not to be undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you can still win a state championship and not be
with multiple
undefeated.
Losses. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does anybody really care? Well, it's like the Patriots. They were 18-0.
Yeah.
Does anybody really care? They were 18-1. They lost D1.
The one that really mattered.
Yeah, I mean.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. Let me take a quick time out. We'll come back up more. Don't go anywhere. I am going to be short today because I got to go work on some telephones.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stiefel Nicholas can assist you. Call Ford Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stiefel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome back. Glad to have you here on a Thursday morning. I was really mad yesterday. I got to hear yesterday morning it was like 62 degrees in February. I'm not happy about that. This morning a little different. It was about, I see it's 33 now. It's about 35
God,
when
it was
I got
cold, man.
Now, that was a disappointing thing in Gatlinburg. We had warm weather. I don't want to see 60-degree weather in Gatlinburg in February. I want some cold weather.
Yeah, as opposed to where it had been you know, before, because you were there last weekend.
Yep.
Well, we were up at Mars Hill last weekend again, back-to-back weekends. Lanny, it snowed so much 10 minutes up the road. Now, Mars Hill, you know, sits a little bit lower, even though it's called Mars Hill. It's only about 2,200 feet in elevation, so sometimes they get winter blast in there, and then sometimes it's, you know, a little warmer. But I'm telling you, 7-10 minutes up the road,
But that's mountain weather.
Yeah, and it is. And you know, unless you lived here or whatever.
And the beach is like that when it comes to rain.
Holy cow.
You can see walls of water.
Walls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, where we're staying the second half of the trip.
Yeah, that sunset.
Yeah, you'll be able to see out, like way out.
Yeah.
From where we are, because it's basically on the point. And when that water does, I say when, if it does, if we do have one of those, you can see.
Oh, yeah.
From a long way
Moving
away.
across the ocean. Yeah.
You can see it come at you.
Richie said, check out A&E on Sunday nights. They're doing WWE Rivals and WWE Biographies. I'll have to check that out. Chad, you are exactly right. I do not like this. No playoff team should get a bye. I don't want, if you're going to go 14, just go ahead and go to 16. I want everybody to play every week if you're going to do this.
Well, this is the thing. It's almost like, well, we're rewarding you, but we're punishing you. You know, and that's basically what happens. Now, the argument with that is, and I heard a good point on this, and it was on I was just, you know, whatever, going through and looking at things, and it was a show I wasn't familiar with, just people talking. The guy said, well, yeah, but they always take a month off before they play anyway,
That's
so
right.
what does it matter?
That's right.
And I'm like, you know what? But the point of that is everybody's taking, the 4 teams at that time were taking a month off, not 2 of them were taking a week off and the rest of them are still playing. You know, my thing to this whole thing is, Lanny, number one, you know, before they do anything with the playoff system, they've got to address the transfer.
Mm-hmm.
They have to address that, and they've got to get that under control. All right? You know, the Wild Wild West died because it was the Wild Wild West. People, when they're watching things, at the beginning of the Wild Wild West, it was very exciting and things were thriving, and then it just died because people were dying.
Yeah.
But the idea of the chaos that ensued, it just wasn't attractive overall to a lot of people, and that's why everybody was in the Wild Wild West, and all of a sudden it just died.
Well,
it's the same thing with this. I'm telling you, people are becoming disinterested in, well, I'm pulling for this team. I really like this kid. Well, I've watched him. Where'd he go?
Yeah.
Well, why is he going over here?
Here's what I think it's going to take.
It's getting ridiculous.
This is what I think it's going to take. I think it's going to take a separation, okay? And you can call it whatever you want to, the haves and the have-nots. You're going to have a separation of the top powers, and they're going to have contracts, and they're going to limit things, and then you're going to get below that, and you're going to start to limit other things. And that way you've got people that have the opportunity to go play with the big boys and play with the money and all that kind of stuff, or you're going to get back to more traditional college athletics on the other level. The whole problem came from the NCAA not getting involved. So now it's kind of hard to put the genie back in the bottle, but I think you're going to have some separation to be able to do it. Now, Richie said Ohio State got in trouble with the recruitment of Caleb Downs. They got him to transfer from Bama. It is a small level 3 violation, and there will be no penalty. What happened to cause this, a staff member posted about a good news a day before Downs announced his commitment to Ohio State. Social media has created a lot of this because of the availability of things. Milton, why does Notre Dame get special treatment? Because they're Notre Dame and because they can and because somebody's willing to pay them. Now, until they get in and say, okay, if you don't get in a conference, you're going to have no guarantees to get in. But it's such a big brand from a dollar standpoint, and I don't care what anybody says, it's not about crowning a champion. It's not about doing all these things for the sports. It's about these companies like ESPN, Fox Sports, all these people making money. That's what it's about. It comes down to money.
But see, I have no problem, you know, with people bringing, you know, capitalism, or in this case, elitism with capitalism into the equation, because it pumps money in, it provides opportunities. You know, it gives awareness to things. We're able to talk about, you know, all different things across sports, other issues, things that are most important to the people that are talking about it and those that are listening that they're interested in. But we have gone to wanting to be first instead of being right. And the only way to fix this is, and there's going to be tons of lawsuits, but you basically have to have a commissioner of college football.
Right.
That has the ultimate authority.
But that means somebody has to give that up.
Well, okay, but this is the thing. If, you know, and this is the crossroads that we are. It may take a total plummet before we come to that, right? Until things are, you know, resurrected and brought back and done the right way for the right reasons. And we can never be dismissive of doing what is right and what is true. You know, we talk about all this artificial intelligence. I like to think of it as artificial information, because when we say intelligence, that's kind of like a word that's put in there for, well, it's based off of what's programmed in that the intelligence or the artificial, the machine pulls from and is able to do. So what happens is you start getting narratives and point of views on things that you're trying to find that are truthful. And that's where this whole thing is getting skewed. We have skewed what is truth. And there's only one of those. Mm-hmm. And that cannot, you know, and there is no, you know, debate about that. The problem is we're letting there be one. And, you know, this whole thing about, you know, if you're going to be amateur status, be amateur status.
Well, and that's
if you're going to be employees, be employees.
Yep.
But everybody wants a hand in that money instead of a hand in the growth and development of the young people. And basically what they've done is they've pretty much said a college degree, you know, is not that important. You know, that's basically what's being said here. And while those players, Laney, may be going to play football somewhere, you know, and that's why they're there. What happens when you tear your ACL a couple, 3 times?
Oh, I know.
What are you going to do? All right, what are you going to do when you have that Achilles injury you can't come back from?
Let me give you this, because
what's the intent?
And I'll kind of give some basis to what you're saying, because you're going to have to separate this, because everybody can't be at that same level. Okay, now this is a little bit old, but it's the closest I could find. Under NCAA rules, FCS teams can have the equivalence of 63 scholarships. Okay?
Yeah.
So that means instead of 63 fulls, they could have 60 full and 6 halves. It's still 63. Okay? Division I FBS gets 85 scholarships. Now, there are some things that are a little bit different. A conference can decide to be more restrictive as a whole. For example, the Ivy League and the Pioneer Football League don't allow athletic scholarships, but they give academic scholarships, so they're still getting help.
Left pocket, right pocket, man.
Right, that's right. I mean, now, and the reason I bring this up is because one of the reasons that Appalachian really needed to move up from FCS to FBS, the Southern Conference, because of schools like Furman, Elon, some of these private schools that were in there, they wanted to, as a conference, cut back on the number of scholarships because they couldn't afford 63. They wanted to cut back to like 45. Well, that would punish a team like Appalachian that could afford it, so they needed to do something else. So that's where I think something's going to have to happen, that you're going to have some restructuring that's done, and you'll see more of the amateur athletic side of it get back into play, because you're going to have schools that need to come into a division that say, hey, we can't play NIL. We can't do the transfer game. So if you're going to do that, you've got to go to this level, because we've agreed as a whole we can't. Now, I'm hoping it doesn't get into a legal side of saying, well, you can't do that. Well, yeah, you can, because they've got somewhere else they can do that. We just don't want to do it here because we can't afford to do it. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Let me catch a couple more comments. Richie said, find Extra Kick with Josh Pate he's been talking about this the last few weeks. The issue with expansion of the playoffs is that we'll mess up conference championships. I want to do away with conference championships. I want smaller conferences where everybody plays everybody and you get a true conference champion. Now, the conferences don't want that because of the amount of money it brings in. The only two conferences, and they're the big boys, SEC and the Big Ten, are the only ones that make money. ACC has never made money on conference championship, especially when they moved it to Florida and played in Tampa, played in Jacksonville. If it's played in Charlotte, it does okay, but it's just not.
Yeah, but then if it is, then they want to make a political issue out of it because, well, the state legislature doesn't want this to happen or that, so we're not going to hold the game there. This whole thing, it's like Atlanta losing the All-Star game. They went from a place where a lot of people are employed, and depend on the revenue, things that were coming in, had done a lot of prepping because of voting laws, but yet they went to a state that has more restriction in voting laws than the one that they were coming from, but they wanted to make this whole thing, like
it's smoke and mirrors is what it is.
This whole thing is, it's basically elitism. And, I have no problem with people making themselves better and getting at certain levels and, being the best they can be.
Yeah.
But when they start doing it based off of a narrative that hurts and undermines other people, for their cause because of the way they feel.
Right.
Okay, that is where all this is going.
Yep.
And that's why you have to have one person in charge.
Yeah, yeah.
And they have to say, these are the rules. Now, that doesn't mean that one person, which any great leader of people, will get in a room with other experienced people and listen to the input they have. But it's like having a room full of people deciding on this. Well, the committee said this. Well, the committee believes that. I hear that in churches all the time, right? Well, the committee it's like you can hide behind it and not take any ownership of it, but that's what we're going to do. We had it with the High School Athletic Association for a long time, right?
That's right.
Okay, and that's maybe what caused some things.
Board of directors.
All that, right? Basically, Lane, you got to have a person in charge, whoever that is, and they've got to be in charge. And they take in all the information, then they make the decision. And you know what? It's up for criticism. That's okay, but that's part of the job.
But a decision was made. That's the
right,
key thing.
And not fumbled around and, but they've done everything they can do to be there. They still weren't good enough. Sometimes you do all you can do and it's still not good enough, right?
That's right.
Doctors do all they can do to save a life, and sometimes that's just not good enough. Okay, and it's one of these things that just not being able to take no for an answer. Shut your mouth, do your job.
Yep.
Okay, make sure that not only you doing your job, but it's for the benefit of some. When possible, for the benefit of others.
That's right.
All right. If you can't do that, then you don't need to be a part of this.
Yep.
Right, and there's no set standard in place. It's all about, well, I'm gonna get mine. That's a great philosophy. And, it's a way that the downfall of so many civilizations have happened because they're getting theirs.
That's why we're in the mess.
Talking about.
That's why we're in the mess that we're in now. Mike brought up a good point, and I've said this too. He said that's flawed, but it's a lot better than picking who a room of a few thinkers are the best for. Some think with college basketball, even though there's 64 teams and they're looking at going to 96, someone deserving is left out. But in football, there's a big difference between the number 1 team and the number 14 team. Upsets happen in the basketball tournament. That's a whole lot harder in football.
Yeah,
and I would have to look up and see the lowest ranked, the lowest seeded team to ever win the NCAA. It's not going to be a number 43. It just doesn't happen. And I said this before, when I first started talking about these 14 teams that were ranked after the end of this season, all 14 teams cannot honestly compete for a national championship with the other 14 teams in that group because they're just not there.
But this is what's crazy. Ole Miss's 2 losses this year were to who?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And yet, there was no discussion at any time about them being a top 5 or top 6 team. When they were clearly head and shoulders above those that were right there in front of them, and definitely the ones that were 2 or 3 behind them. You know, it's you know. We get to the thing that always, well, what makes you feel good? Well,
what makes me feel good is to get it right.
Well, what makes,
I may not agree with it, but I just want to get it right.
Well, but if you lead with truth, okay, and you can have disagreement about who's number 1 and who's number 4 and all that, that's okay. I think the comment before, who was it?
Mike.
Yeah, made a great point about, well, you know, we're trying to get away from people in a room. I think what you have to have is you can't have any skewed bias.
Right.
And the only way to get through that is to have people talking about things and then bring it to one person and have them make the decision. Now, open up for critical, you know, whatever, absolutely. Well, they just like this team because they're friends with this and that. Listen, in the end,
what happens if you don't have one person making the decision? You've got a group of people that are negotiating and jockeying to get their position heard and get their team in.
Right.
That's what it boils down to.
I mean, I was at a government meeting yesterday, a TAC meeting with transportation, whatever. I'm on one of the committees. Now I'm on, you know, whatever council or whatever, and I really enjoyed it. But it feels a lot like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, well, you have opportunity to do this, which is great. You know, apply for this grant, or, you know, everybody has equal access to this money. It's just about the plan that you bring and what's approved and all that. But yet, based on the size, you know, of town that you are, and the number of people is how much a percentage of a vote you get.
Right.
Okay, that's okay, except when your tax revenue is the highest in the county.
Well,
you know, because listen, if we're gonna say money talks, money talks.
But
okay.
That's what I'm saying. There needs to be statistical things that are looked at, and that's how you come up with those decisions. You can't have just one criteria. You got to look at all the measuring things that affect it.
That's why it was so unfair to say, well, Texas deserves to be in here because, you know, Bama's clearly one of the top 4. Texas maybe isn't, but because they beat Alabama, we got to put them in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that immediately boots Florida State, which, you know, for all intents and purposes, is not the same team without that player.
Right.
Now, again, not deserving.
But that goes back to your strength of schedule and all the things that you've accomplished over the length of the season.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You may lose to a team. Let's just say you've got a number 3 team at the beginning of the season, and they lose to an unranked team, first game of the season. They're just not ready. They lose. And that's the only loss they have.
Yeah.
And that team that beats them works their way up to, say, a number 12. Well, that loss isn't so bad now because of what they have accomplished. It was bad at the time, and that's why you have to look at the whole body of work, to me.
No, I don't disagree with that. And, you know, obviously Michigan was the national champion, all right, but they didn't play Georgia. Mm-hmm. And one can rightfully say, yeah, but Alabama beat Georgia. Yeah, but, you know, the SEC championship's great. But Georgia really never thought losing that would keep them out of the conference. No. I mean, and I got to tell you, they're thinking right because they're one top 4 teams. So
that's why I don't like the conference championship.
That's what I'm saying. And you line this thing up, and you're like, okay, so realistically, it's arguable that Ole Miss was the 4th best team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Arguable.
Yeah. But when you look at it, when you go back and look, this is the part that bothers me. When you go back and look at it, until we get out of this situation, and the same thing in basketball, until you get into a situation to where everybody that's being evaluated in their unit, their conference, play the same common opponents, you can't come to a conference championship. You can't come because the West and the East are 2 different animals inside the SEC.
Well, giving style points too is the worst thing ever in the world because it inhibits opportunity as well. You know, when you have a game won and it's halfway through the 3rd quarter or beginning of the 3rd quarter, there's no reason to keep going and going and going and piling on. Excuse me, because it puts your team in jeopardy for that championship run because you got style points for where you want to finish, how things look to the committee. You know, my thing is, you know, people on the committee having a fundamental understanding of not only coaching but playing, okay? And you need to have analytics on there, people that have never played the game, that have only observed it, because they can bring that factor in. But in the end, the thing holds true. Unless you've been there and done that, you really don't know. I could read all the soccer books. I've never played one day of soccer in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I could read on that stuff and the friends I've got, and I could go out and I could be effective coaching it. but I can really never understand what those players are going through, how they perceive the game, how they feel it. But analytics from experience is still an important part of it. This whole thing, this whole metric, and the thing about Ole Miss being the fourth best team, that is arguable. I'm not saying they are, but when they lose to Alabama and Georgia, when both those programs were at their peak during the season, and Ole Miss was hands down better than everybody else they played. And with their defense was phenomenal.
The problem was they had
have 2 losses and nobody wanted to see that.
The problem was nobody wants to look at them, okay, in that situation because they don't have the pedigree of some of these others. That's what Link says.
Yeah, right.
Link says that's why Ohio State gets picked when they do not deserve it, because they've got that pedigree. Richie said his boys were not happy because they were made to wear pants today because they've been wearing shorts. Well, I wear shorts all the time. Mike said, I listened to Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski speak last night. Both were asked about the portal and NIL. They talked about it, but they both think it's a major problem. It is. That's kind of why they got out. Richie said, I caught some of that. I recorded. We'll be watching it later. 2 great coaches talking about the game, how it has changed. People need to watch and listen. And Richie said, I hope that they don't go to 96 teams. I feel like they have too many teams now. It's just a money thing. Travis said, it all goes back to leadership. No one makes decisions anymore to be managers, not leaders in higher level roles.
That's right.
And you're right. Richie said, I believe that you have to see the P2 got 20 teams, and they will break that down into 5-team divisions. They will get winners from the divisions and start the playoff process to the conference championship. Those playoff games will be more of a part of the overall playoff system. Yeah. That's why I think this whole thing has to be reworked and get to it like you should. I got to get out of here. I got to go meet the phone man.
So basically you got 2 options, all right? You either play games within your conference and have a champion. That champion advances no matter what, and stop talking about who the best teams are, okay? You can't have both, and they're trying to do both. And then the bottom line is you've got to go back to the traditional way of having championship play within your conference.
I don't like to see –
That's it.
I don't like to see anybody move into a – it's the reason that I can't watch gymnastics and figure skating, because everybody's point of view is different. If I run a race, there's going to be a winner and a loser because it's going to be settled.
Boxing.
It's going to be settled. I don't like it going to the card. Yeah. I want it settled on the field of competition. Then it leaves no doubt in anybody's mind who was deserving to be there. We'll close with that, Milton. But everybody gets a trophy. There you go. You had it.
And here we are.
Milton sums it up right there. He tells you why everything's the way it is. We will be at the beach next week, but we should be there with a show or 2.
Definitely Wednesday, right?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. I'm planning on being there Monday.
Maybe Monday, right?
Yeah. Just got to make sure my body will work. Have a great weekend. The boys will be here Saturday. See you guys.